Today on the Point Blank Performance YouTube channel, we're talking about our 2020 plus L5P Duramaxes. But on the rack, we got a 21 Carhartt Edition L5P in for our D2 HP package. Hold it right there. What is a D2 HP package? To start off our D2 HP package, we want to focus on the air box. Now hang tight. Let's show you your factory air box. On your truck, you can check it out. This does perfect in a factory application. Have we made power? Yes, but our air intake temperatures go up because we're sucking all this air in. And when you suck air in and you keep it from gaining more air around, you heat it up. So that's one limiting factor there. Yes, you can throw another filter in here, maybe pick up a couple horsepower, but ultimately, this dude's still, you're out of power. Now let's move on to something big. This is a Whirly Custom Fab, their brand new fabricated air box. This dude's huge. Take a look here. There is no restrictions in this. It looks like you can almost jump in it and run to the turbocharger. So with this potential, we have not maxed out, but we do know this. There is a ton more air than what the factory air box can actually get to the turbocharger. Speaking of turbocharger, how big is the pipe that feeds all this air into it? Next in line, we've got to get the air from the air box to the turbocharger. That's where the intake tube comes into play. Now the job of this, just flow air. That's all you want to do is just flow air. The factory, they did a pretty good job. But here's one of the things. Obviously, diesel owners have become kind of soft. They put a resonator around it to quieten the air to the turbocharger down. To quieten it down, right? You bought a diesel to do work. It's gonna make some noises. So take this, put it to the side. We want to flow air all the way through the turbocharger. That's where a 4-inch piece of pipe can do a better job. Who cares how loud it is? It's a diesel. So guys, we've got air from the box to the pipe. We've got to get it to the turbocharger with no restrictions, with no noise ordinance, right? What's the next piece in line? So we're almost making power. We're almost to the turbocharger. We moved all that air. What's the next thing in line? Well, let's check out the factory intake horn. Check it out here. We got a big open hole, we're moving all that air, boom. As soon as we get to the turbocharger, we're gonna squeeze it back down. Keep in mind, when you shrink that air, it gets a little bit warmer. We wanna open the hole up, that way our intake air temps go down, but most importantly, we've got a 62 millimeter turbocharger there that needs all the air it can get to it. If we can get it all in there, we'll make more power. Check it out. Open hole here, but check out the mouthpiece on this dude. Way larger than the factory setup. You can see the resemblance, or actually the not resemblance, between the two. They do have a surge ring in there. Its job is this. When you're rolling down the road, you don't get that back and forth movement. The truck's just nice and smooth. Keep in mind, when you add air to your truck and you keep the resistance down, you will get better mileage. Now we're almost to the engine, we're almost making power. Let's check out the hot side intercooler pipe. So we're on the driver's side of the truck. Why? This is where the hot side intercooler pipe is. The hot air that just came out of the turbocharger, take a look up top, comes out of the turbo, runs down the yellow pipe all the way to the intercooler. Now, if we have a pipe with a bunch of restrictions, a bunch of bends in it, we're not gonna make as much mileage, we're not gonna make as much power. Why? Because we're restricting the air. That's where this hot side intercooler pipe will dominate over the factory one. It's got a lot more room to make a lot more air flowing to the intercooler. Next thing in line is the cold side intercooler pipe. Before we get carried away and go on to the cold side intercooler pipe, these are the factory pieces that come on your truck. Hot side intercooler pipe, we've got rubber, 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 silencer. Again, we do not need a silencer in the truck. We've got the cold side intercooler pipe. We can almost make it touch. Guys, here's the biggest thing I'm gonna stress about this. You're going up in Nevada, you're going up these big mountains or whatever, and you're towing 20,000 pounds. Your truck shouldn't be towing it, but you're towing it because you're a manly of all men. You've got your wife, you've got your kids, and you're stressed out and you're trying to get a point A, point B. She's mad because you bought a diesel. Here's a big picture. You're almost to the top, boom, this thing blows because the boost pressure is just all of it. You're now fixing to enter a divorce. Let's go to the truck and let's look at something that's far superior over rubber. It's 21st century aluminum. To get serious for a minute, we're taking a look at our cold side intercooler pipe. The guys at Whirly Custom Fab, when they approached this design, they did it in the right way. To gain a peace of mind, they've got 2 O-rings. Now, no, you can't see it, but you've got your intercooler pipe here. Up top, it attaches with a C-clip, but inside there, you've got 2 O-rings. That way, all the boost pressure stays sealed. You don't have a boot that could blow. The air travels from here and it goes up. This is 3.5 inches of pipe versus the rubber that you just can't get a good measurement on it because it's rubber. All the way up top, you've got a really thick 4-ply boot, 2 clamps that hold it on, so you're getting air from the intercooler all the way up to the intake manifold. So a far superior design over rubber. Starting from the top, our D2 HP package consists of a air box, air intake, intake horn, hot side intercooler pipe, cold side intercooler pipe. Here at Point Blank Performance, that's what makes a L5P a D2 HP package. Now, most importantly, we got some pretty parts. Worthy Custom Fab done a fantastic job. This is a Carhartt edition truck. It's meant to do work, right? Well, it's here at the shop and it's outfitted with our D2 HP package. We want to see what kind of power this truck makes on 35-inch tall tires turned all the way up on the dyno. It's dyno time. Look at the Dyno. So guys, we just made our first pull on the 21 L5P. We're gonna take a look at the graph. Guys, you haven't got to meet him yet, but I got Sam here. I wanted to basically speak to Sam like if the customer was here, so that way you could share like that one-on-one experience. So now we're gonna put up the data, take a look at the graph. The truck laid down 549 rural horsepower and 1,096 feet-pound of torque. So as I was showing Sam, we came in at right around 2,200 RPMs. So if you take a look here, I'm gonna get this back on this graph, and you'll see right here. So I had the load come in at 2,100 RPMs, 22 started laying in, and the power just went straight up. So there's no sense to run this truck past 2,900 RPMs as I told him. I was like, hey, there's no more power to be had, so let's keep the truck in a 22 to 2,900 RPM range, and let's call it a day. You can see the horsepower and the torque, and that's pretty cool. Like the horsepower and the torque pretty much cross paths, and they make their peak horsepower at that 2,600. Now again, a customer's always going to ask me, and that's why I was telling Sam, I said, hey, let's look at the EasyLink data. For you guys, let's also look at it. So we'll pull it up here. As I was showing him, as we're coming up on boost, so I'm going to play this back. So here's earlier in the run, we're coming up on boost, your top left number there for you guys watching at home. 35, 36 PSI, and we're holding pretty good rail pressure. That injection A pressure on the left, that's actual. So that's what the truck's doing. On the right is what's desired. So let's push it a little further. You can see as we push it a little bit further, we're dropping high pressure fuel. High pressure fuel is fuel pressure, so we need that inside the cylinder to go through the exhaust manifolds to spin the turbocharger. The longer the pull, the bigger the tires, like these has 35s, it'll start pulling the truck back. So now, if you were to ask me, you the client, you're like, hey man, what can I do about the high pressure fuel? Step one is a low pressure fuel pump. I would add either a fast or an air dog to it to get the high pressure pump all the fuel. You may make 10 or 20 more horsepower, I don't know. But what we are gonna try to do, we're gonna start this run the same RPM window. So I'm gonna run it from that 21 to 29, but I'm gonna load it a little bit harder, meaning I'm gonna add load to it and see if this truck will actually break over that 550 rural horsepower. But the torque went up, so we loaded it harder. So it did what it's supposed to do. Because we're putting more of a load on it, our torque came up to like 11, 12. So of course I could just keep loading it, and all I mean by loading is I'm putting resistance on the truck. So when I do that, of course the torque goes up. But I'm not going to sit here and just beat the shit out of the truck. It made more power, more torque down low because the truck had to hang in there. 549 on the dot, so I mean it's done as far as horsepower. Throw a fan on it and it might make a little more. So this cake is baked. This cake is baked. It's nice. I mean, it did good. I could probably squeeze, I don't know, there might be another 50 foot-pound of torque, but there's no sense to it. You just get warm and call it a day. So guys, we just finished up with our second dyno pull on the Carhartt truck. We ended up making the same rural horsepower, 549. But our torque went up. These trucks do really well when I start loading them a little harder. We added only 1,000 pounds of trailer weight. So on the dyno, I can go in and I can say, hey, add more resistance to the roller. Of course, it makes more torque. But guys, with the stock fuel, the stock air out of our D2 HP package, that's where this build needs to stop comfortably. We want to set them up where a customer can take them, they can race them, and they're going to have a good time with them. We ain't after blowing this thing up. So that's where we stop. Guys, if you're into the L5P action, make for sure you like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because we're going to be back. Give you a little hint, we got a 22 that's going to try to hit that 600 rural horsepower. See you next week here at Point Blank Performance.